In that case, let's just go ahead and get going, I guess. And to kick things off, like we always do, we will be recapping the episode. And if you find yourself on that recap because we cut it out and host it separately for your viewing convenience, and you would like to see our full discussion, I'm sure this one will be fun. It'll be linked down in the description as well. Yeah, my friend, if you'd like to kick us off this week.
This freaking episode, man. Episode 77 of Campaign 3, The Promise and the Price. This episode opens up with it's a late evening at Whitestone, at the Whitestone Castle, and Laudna is really wanting to find out more about her background and specifically her connection to Delilah. So essentially, her, Imogen, and Fern go on a little girls' trip through the hallways of Whitestone, and along the way, it's late at night. Matt is having her. It wasn't a history check. I think it was wisdom checks to see how well she could recollect things. And as she's rolling, she's getting flashes of like different hallways she's been down before, kind of remembering this previous life when she was still alive before her tragic end due to Delilah. Finally, they make their way to this locked door and they're unable to open it. Imogen has this very clever idea of peeking through the keyhole where she summons a Ray Lauren on the other side. This construct of incredible power who asks, "What is it you command of me?" And she's like, "Can you open the door?" And it's just this funny moment of, sure. So the door opens up. They step into what appears to be, and help me if I misinterpreted this, it seems to be maybe the old living quarters of Percy DeRollo's parents, or like a family member of the DeRollo house.
Yeah, I think it might have even been his childhood room.
Okay. In this room, there is a number of things, most notably a bookshelf, which Laudna sort of instinctively walks over to and pulls a less dusty tome to reveal a hallway, a hidden hallway behind the bookcase. However, the hallway has been boarded up, so to speak. It's been bricked up, I guess, with a sign that reads, basically, "You're very clever, but go apologize to your mother," which seems to be a note that Percy has left for, I guess, Gwendolyn DeRollo. I don't remember how they got through the stone. They basically...
I think Fern stone-shaped.
Yeah. They make their way through it into this hidden chamber that appears to be a laboratory of some sort. And as they're inspecting things, 3 specters come out from the walls and immediately recognize Laudna. Initiative is rolled, and this encounter begins against these 3 ghosts of Whitestone. Not much to say here. We typically cover just the high points from combat. I will say that they are locked in on Laudna throughout this combat, ignoring Fern and Imogen. But the party basically fights the ghost, defeats the ghost, but not before Laudna, interestingly enough, really embraces. It feels like they think that she is Delilah, and so she full on embraces it and locks into that deep power of Delilah as they absolutely obliterate these ghosts. As combat ends, they are then find themselves in a conversation with Delilah Briarwood. All of them can hear her, and Delilah does confirm their suspicions that these were 3 servants of Whitestone who Delilah presumably did experiments of her own against. And basically, there's a conversation between Laudna and Delilah on, like, really Laudna asking, like, what am I? Like, what is our relationship? Like, what's happening? And Delilah basically explains that Laudna is her tether to this world. And similarly, Delilah is Laudna's tether, in that Laudna has basically died, and yet she remains because of Delilah's connection to this world. Delilah also mentions that the Whispered One has been biding his time, that Delilah is working on his behalf to make sure that the gods, most notably him, doesn't go away. And basically even promises Laudna that there could be, they can talk after all this is said and done. They can maybe talk about separating Laudna and Delilah. But first, Delilah is going to need much more power. And Laudna remembers the moment on the ship many episodes ago where she broke and consumed the power of the Gnarl Rock stone. Delilah seems to disappear, and Laudna basically turns to Imogen and just says, hey, it's honestly like your classic movie, like, you know, hey, if something happens, like, leave me. And Laudna says, I'm dead weight, like literally, I'm dead weight. And I need you to promise me that if something happens, you'll move on with your life. Imogen rebuffs that and basically says, no way, we will find an answer for you. I don't care what Delilah says. I don't care who the Whispered One is. We got a great line from Laura Bailey about him slithering around in the shadows and being weak. But they make a promise to one another to find an answer, and they basically head back to their quarters to go to sleep for the night. And that's when we go to break.
Yes, sir. So we pick up in the second half. Everyone basically having taken their long rest for the night, and the next morning, they're in, I think, 3 different rooms. So the next morning in Orym and Fern's room, they have a bit of a conversation in the morning. Fern starts to tell Orym what happened the night before, but then she's like, well, the whole group will talk about it later. But Orym wants to talk to her and just says that how much he loves her, basically saying how lucky he is to have found her, and how he loves to see her really coming into her own and blossoming. And he kind of puts the cherry on top of this moment by giving her a gift, and he gives her the spyglass that he stole from the Ghost Pirates a few episodes ago. So a really sweet moment. Then everybody else, they all convene back together in the morning, and our 3 lovely lady witches basically fill in the rest of the party on their adventure from the night before. They then decide, like, hey, you know, we're about to go on this crazy mission. Like, this might be our last day of just kind of normalcy. Like, let's do something fun. And they're like, well, we should go like sledding or something here in Whitestone because there's snow. So they're like, yeah, okay, well, let's go sledding. But before they do, FCG's like, hey, wait, like, I know why some of us are doing this, but like, I don't know why some others of us are. Like, some of us has really good reasons to go save the gods, but for the rest of you, like, why are you doing this? And he specifically calls out Chetney. And Chet says that he wants to do it just because, like, he's getting old, and this is his opportunity for him to really make a difference in the world and leave a legacy and have people remember his name. And that answer is good enough for FCG. And then he asks Orym the same question, basically. He's like, you know, why are you doing this? And Orym's like, well, you know, it started with my husband and my father, but now it's just so much bigger than that. If my sacrifice can save all the lives after, then it's worth it. And, you know, so that's why I'm doing it. And that, you know, is good enough for FCG as well. And FCG kind of similarly has, you know, the same kind of struggle they've been having the whole time. Like, you know, are they worth it? And this kind of culminates in, again, the witches giving FCG a gift that they had, which is a wok that they got. And they're like, it matches your color scheme. You can use it to cook. And they're like, okay. They also decide they're going to use it for sledding. So the gang then goes outside to sled. There's a fun little sequence, and essentially Ashton and FCG use the walk to sled, and Chetney and Orym use a sled that Chetney, like, I think carves out of wood really quick earlier. And so they have a quick little, you know, I think it's like an athletics roll or something. And essentially Ashton and FCG bite it completely and end up into the snow, whereas Chetney and Orym just go perfectly down the jumps and have a perfect time. So they do this. And then there's still a few hours before they're going to be meeting up with like the leadership of Whitestone to talk plans. So there's a little segment here where a few characters do their own thing. First and foremost, Imogen goes to a temple of the Dawnfather, but she's never done this before, so she doesn't really know what to do. So she asks an older lady there about like, how do I pray? And she gets some kind of simple instructions and just speak from the heart type of thing. So she walks up to a nearby altar, takes out her "White Stone is for Lovers" T-shirt because that's like the only thing she can even think of as like a kind of offering to like pray with. And she basically just says that like, "Hey, Dawnfather, I hope you know like we're trying to fix things for you and the gods, and if we're able to, and if everything goes right, I hope that you can maybe help me in return," because she wants help with Laudna. She says, "I don't want to make like any deals, but I just sure could use some help with what's going on with her." She says, "Thank you." She doesn't get like a direct response or anything. So she just says, "Thank you," and walks out. And as she does, as she's leaving, she kind of notices in the courtyard nearby, her attention is just drawn to a statue of the champion of the Matron of Ravens. Just this, feathered humanoid figure, and she can hear like a raven caw nearby. We then cut to Orem, who is going shopping. So he heads to Gilmore's Glorious Goods, runs into Jerry, who is opening the shop. And Jerry's like, "Hey, we're stock's pretty bare. Everything's being like conscripted for the war effort." And Orm's like, "I just need some healing potions." And it's like, "Yep, we got some." So he buys 3 for 150 gold. And then Liam's like, "Can I just look to see if there's anything else here?" And so he actually rolls a nat 20 on his perception check. And because of that, he finds like this vial that had like slipped through the cracks. And Jerry tells him like, "Oh yeah, we thought that was stolen. Like we marked that as, lost because of that. So here's the deal. I'll give it to you for 200 gold." And Orum's like, "How about 199?" Thinking like he's being slick haggling. Jerry's like, "Yep, sold." And it ends up being a potion of heroism. So after that, Orem goes to the Slayer's Cake to pick up a bunch of pastries. Basically orders a ton and gives them an electrum piece, and it's going to be delivered to the meeting later.
Hang on, I think he orders 50 pies to be delivered in 2 hours, which, excuse me, what?
He's got no consideration for the bakery's
it's not going to happen.
orders.
All right, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. He bought a ton of stuff, but specifically a whole apple pie just for himself.
Yes.
So we then cut to Ashton and Fern, who are kind of going on a little walk together to speak privately, and they actually go to the clock tower, Percy's clock tower. And they talk about just, how they're going on this crazy mission. And Ashton says, if something were to go wrong, your Nana Maury would miss you so much, but if something were to happen to me, there's no one to miss me. And Fern's like, "What are you talking about?" And Ashton's like, "Well, other than you guys." He's like, "I'm saying aside from our group here, if something were to happen to me, there's no one to miss me like there is for you." So they start talking about the primordial shard again. And the two are kind of even being a little flirty during this whole discussion. And Ashton says, "Hey, I trust you. Can you help me with this?" Because Fern wants the shard to go to Ashton if Ashton wants it, and Ashton does want it, but he says the others probably won't like this idea because we know it's dangerous. So will you help me? And if things go bad, try to help me if that happens too. And he's like, "I trust you, and I trust that you'll do what needs to be done more than everyone else." And Fern's like, "Okay, I don't really like know fully what you're asking of me, but like I'll help you." So the party then reconvenes. It's time for the leadership meeting. Lady Cassandra DeRollo, Percy's sister, is now here. The baked goods are here. And Percy and Allura and Bell's Hells make up the whole group. So Percy's like, "Hey, couple of options here. We're basically going to make a distraction so that you guys can get to the Bloody Bridge and get up to the moon unnoticed. We got a stockpile of residuum, and we've got some complex machines, both of which aren't really widely understood outside of Whitestone, so we can probably make a good distraction here." So the first thing he offers up are these devices that will let them control or hack really an Aormaton and just kind of cause some ruckus as a distraction. So FCG takes those, and there is a timer you can set or you can press it and have it go off instantly. They also think that an onslaught of illusions could be a good distraction, and Allura will be the one to helm up that. And they're going to pair these illusions with like this wagon of like meat, so that like if the illusions are attacked, there will be like flesh and blood to help it sell it. Um, so in addition to those plans, Allura also gives them 2 scrolls that will protect them from scrying. She gives them a scroll of greater restoration to use on Rin if they find her, and a scroll of dimension door. She also gives them a potion of speed and 2 potions of gaseous form. And finally, Percy gives FCG the custom jeweled baking tin that they requested. So the plan is sneak in, recon, sneak back out. And they're basically, everyone is like, we're just ready to go as soon as you guys say you're ready. And they're like, okay, well, the only thing we really need to do is this primordial shard. So they're like, where should we go that would be safe if we're going to try this? And so Percy and Cassandra opt to take them down to the ziggurat beneath Whitestone, which is this massive pyramid.
Nothing bad's ever happened here.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah.
And this massive pyramid with like this kind of green arcane light. They're going to do it here. So Chet gives the harness to Ashton and Fern, who are going to kind of go up away from everybody else just as a safety precaution. And Fern's like, I don't think I really want the shard. And Laudna is like, no, like you have to take it. Like you're the only one that can take it. And so Ashton's like, yeah, Fern's going to take it, but we're going to go over here to be safe.
Yeah.
So they kind of ascend up this pyramid a little ways, just out of view. And Allura casts this like protective shell around just in case, or she's like prepared to do that. So Ashton and Fern get up there. Ashton's like, hey, thanks for helping me out. Like, let's just get this over with ASAP. But Fern's like, I don't know about this. And she's worried. And she's like, you just better not die. So she grabs the shard out of the bag and starts taking fire damage as soon as she touches it, and basically holds it in front of Ashton, who is now wearing the harness. And so the shard begins to be absorbed by this harness, and a gauntlet begins. And for the sake of brevity, I'm going to run through this, but essentially what the deal is here is for 10 rounds, aka a minute, Ashton has to survive as the process of absorbing this shard takes place. And that happens in the way of Constitution saving throws for 10 rounds, while also taking tons of fire damage. And essentially we find out that a failed Constitution throw means you die.
Yeah.
No big deal. Yeah, no big deal. Because as Matt warned them multiple times, one person was not meant to contain 2 shards.
We'll talk about that.
And this is the fallout of that. So as this is going on, Ashton literally starts to crumble to pieces, taking tons of fire damage. Their arm literally falls off at one point. And Fern is just pumping as much healing as she can, but quickly the party can tell something is not going right up there. So ultimately the party all kind of rush up there. FCG is pumping as much healing as possible into Ashton. And basically every round Ashton falls unconscious from the fire damage, but is able to get like immediately put back up between the 2 heals of Fern and FCG. Ashton does fail the con save though, and just is obliterated into a million pieces, but the pieces hang in the air and reform together, because Ashton was saved by the Ring of Temporal Salvation that the party got from Deanna. So this continues on until we get to the 10th and final round, where Ashton successfully makes the final DC and the process is complete. And the whole place is just filled with like this crazy steam. And as it dissipates, there is Ashton now, where their arm was previously gone, is now like this muscular, like magma lava arm. And instead of like the golden veins that used to be there, they're now like glowing volcanic orange veins. And Ashton thanks Fern for trusting them, and she just runs up and kicks him straight in the face and says like, I'm never listening to you again. And the whole table is just kind of like freaking out. And that is where the episode ends. Again, episode 77. And if you're watching just the recap, our link to our full discussion will be linked down below in the description.